I'm very bummed about this Rob Reiner situation. Obviously, Hollywood legend, what a genius. But this case just took a mind-blowing twist to me. Can we talk about it?
Sure, let's get into it.
I don't think anyone doubts at this moment that Nick Reiner murdered Rob and Michelle, murdered them via stabbing. But somehow the defense, from what I'm hearing, you're going to elucidate, is going to claim not guilty to murder. Not guilty.
Rob Reiner, the famous director, and his wife had a shocking experience in their own home. That spot where you should feel safest. It happened with a close friend or family member that they trusted, completely turning their world upside down. Rob had been writing heartfelt stories about love, family, and deep human ties for decades, but all of a sudden he was going through a real-life heartbreak. Nick Reiner, his son, had already been open about his problems, which had put the family through a lot before, but no one knew how bad things would get the night before. It all changed in an instant. The police are now looking into what Nick said about his father in the past. Some comments make it sound like there may have been warning signs a long time ago, before things got out of hand. It doesn't bother me if you call me Sally. I'm a snail and I'll always succeed. What do you know? You need to pay to get me out of jail. There was a very sad night for Rob and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner on December 13th, 2025. A night that was meant to be fun, with music, laughter, and Christmas spirit. Going that night, the couple went to Conan O'Brien's fun Christmas party. The room was bright with. There were lights, music, and holiday cheer as old and new friends got together to party. But there was something strange about the sparkle. Later, witnesses said that Rob and his son Nick got into a fight out of the blue. It wasn't just a small fight in the family. The fight was loud and tense. It was loud at the party, and people couldn't help but look around because they could feel the bad mood. People said Nick's behavior was odd and hard to miss, and that he stood out in a way that made everyone feel nervous. A strange feeling filled that night. Everyone could tell something wasn't right. Yes. One of the guests said the next morning that Nick had everyone on edge. As detectives tried to figure out what really happened in those tense hours before things changed, that saying spread very quickly. It's just tough. It's possible for the guy to plead not guilty, which makes a lot of people wonder what that means. Kind of like not he's because he's crazy, right? Is that a real different case from the other three? Yes. No plea, guilty, but not guilty because he was crazy. Yes. This is the fourth one. He could also do something else. Penal Code Section 1368 says that he could actually say that he had doubts. His answer might be, I don't know what's going on right now. That's two reasons in his head, which is what I would do. No one gave up on Rob Reiner. He didn't try to hide what was going on. Instead, he faced it head-on and did his best to stay cool. Michelle stood strong next to him. They moved steadily and together, not letting the things are getting worse. It didn't look like Rob and Michelle made a big deal about leaving the party. There was a lot of care in the way they led Nick out. It looked like they wanted to do something private, away from everyone's eyes and comments. Everyone who saw it thought it was two loving parents doing everything they could to keep their kids safe. They were trying to get back in charge of a moment that was getting away from them. The next night, Rob called Eric Idle on the phone, and the tone of the call could not have been more different. They talked about planned work projects, especially Spinal Tap 2, which had been put off for a long time. Eric said the talk wasn't serious or emotional at all. It was just fun and creative. Rob seemed motivated, excited, and ready to try new things. His voice didn't sound worried at all, like something wasn't right. But Rob had recently told a few close friends something that makes him feel uneasy now that we look back on it. He said it was true. He was scared of his own son. Rob Reiner didn't just say that to vent. Not because they were angry, but because they were scared. It sounded like a dad who was helpless as he watched a child he loved behave in ways he couldn't change. When the family got home later that night, that quiet worry would quickly grow stronger. In the early hours of December 14th, terrible things happened in the Reiners' Brentwood house. Later, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office stated that the terrible event happened before dawn. Even though no one knew for sure what time it was, the schedule became clearer around 3:30 p.m. When their daughter Romy Reiner, who lived across the street, couldn't get in touch with them, she got mad. As soon as she walked into the house, she knew something wasn't right and called for help right away. In just a few minutes, paramedics and LAPD officers came and quickly inspected the scene. When both Rob and Michelle were found unconscious, the police started a full-scale investigation right away, seeing it from the start as a major domestic incident. What the detectives found made no sense. There were no signs that someone had broken in. Each door and window was completely locked and looked like it had not been touched. The tone of the whole investigation changed after that finding. It seemed like the person didn't need to break in at all. They were already inside or had been told they were welcome. Detectives went door to door to talk to neighbors as the probe went on. Strangely, though, no one else heard anything strange that night. There were no loud noises, warnings, or other signs that something was wrong. The strange silence around the Reiner house made things even scarier, and everyone in the neighborhood wondered what could have happened inside those quiet Brentwood walls. Not guilty, but not guilty either. The person is found not guilty because they were insane. There's a change. In other words, if you plead not guilty by insanity, you're saying that you did the crime but are not guilty because you didn't know what you were doing. A wrong or right test is one way to find out. It might be a defense enough to say you don't know whether what you're doing is right or wrong. He gets it, though. He knows he killed his parents, though. He can't. He might not. Since you know why. Let me tell you. That's really hard for me. That being said, let me explain. It's hard to understand, but let me tell you why it's not so hard to understand in my world. It was very quiet that night in Brentwood, a neighborhood where sound moves easily and high-tech security systems pick up on even the smallest movements. Investigators quickly realized that whoever moved around in Reiner's house knew exactly how it was set up. Every move and movement looked like it was planned out. There were no signs of chaos or loud noises. There was only a creepy calm that could only be achieved by someone who knew the place very well. As detectives put together their plan, Nick Reiner became more important. According to the police report, he left the house soon after the event, around 4 a.m. on December 14th. Soon after he checked into the Santa Monica Pierside Hotel, staff members told police that nothing about his behavior seemed off. He was cool, polite, and steady, just like any other guest would. His voice even sounded calm. There was no shaking, no fear, and no sign that something bad might have happened hours before. However, when police searched the hotel room after he left, they found something that made everything different. Reports say that they found proof that led straight back to the Reiner home. When that was found, the Pierside Hotel became an important part of the riddle. It connected Nick to what happened in Brentwood and put him in the middle of the investigation's timeline. Though Nick checked into the hotel, he only stayed for a short time. He didn't stay for long. He was on the run again in just a few hours, sneaking away like he didn't want to stay put. Later that same day, he was seen on cameras at a gas station near Vermont Avenue and Exposition Boulevard. He walked in without much of a fuss, got a drink, paid at the bar, and then left right away. It was like everything in his world was fine. Nothing showed that people were scared, running, or confused. Nick Reiner looked like he was totally calm. Investigators thought that something very strange had already happened that day, because of how calm everything seemed. Around 9:15 p.m. Cops knew exactly where he was, near Exposition Park, just a few steps from the campus of the University of Southern California. A lot of police cars quickly surrounded the area in a tight but well-planned operation that people watching were stunned to see. The lights that flashed made the night bright. Nick didn't fight back or try to escape, though. He just did what he was told. Within minutes, police had him in arrest, and he didn't fight them at all. At night's end, the police began to put all the pieces together. From what they knew so far, there had been a scary fight, an eerily quiet house, no forced entry, a quick disappearance, and a weird trail that went through Los Angeles. However, the most important question was still up in the air: how to be free. They want him to be free. And that was the sister. It was the sister who found the bodies. What really happened in that house before it got quiet? That's when the study took a more complex and deep turn. After the Brentwood home was fully locked down, forensic teams went inside to find out what had really happened. Their goal was to find the missing timeline that neighbors and witnesses couldn't quite put together. They searched every part of the land. Soon after, the medical inspector began a thorough forensic investigation to establish the exact sequence of events. Investigators had to rely only on science since there were no cameras inside the house and no digital timestamps to use. As the temperature changes, physical signs appear, and even the smallest clues are left behind. It was all about the little things. The main question that drove them was both scary and easy to understand. What was the last turn of events? What really happened? To figure it out, police looked at the physical evidence that was found at the scene. Two important clues popped out: mortis and rigor mortis. When a person dies, their muscles get stiff, which is called rigor mortis. Lividity, on the other hand, shows where the blood settles after the heart stops beating. These scientific clues help police experts figure out how long it's been since the person was last seen. Based on these biological signs, the medical examiner came to the conclusion that Rob and Michelle Reiner most likely passed out very early in the morning. Hours, or almost 12 hours, before they were found. That finding fit right in with what the officers had thought at first. In the middle of the darkest, silent night, the terrible event happened, while everyone in the neighborhood slept soundly, unaware that something so terrible was happening just a few doors away. The investigation then turned its attention to the physical proof. Forensic experts started a thorough examination of the body parts and said that the cuts were multiple sharp force injuries, which is a medical term for harm caused by a sharp object like a blade or similar tool. The marks showed that the person who did it had been right there, close enough to reach out and touch them.